Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to control your life, the more chaotic it seems to become? The harder you chase success, the more distant it feels. The harder you chase happiness, the more anxious you become. The harder you chase people, the faster they seem to drift away. And yet most people never stop chasing. They wake up every day carrying the same invisible weight, worrying about the future, overthinking every decision, and obsessing over things they cannot control. They believe that if they just work harder, think harder, and push harder, everything will finally fall into place. But what if that's exactly what's keeping you stuck? What if the reason you feel exhausted isn't because life is difficult, but because you're fighting a battle you were never meant to fight? Think about how much of your stress comes from reality, and how much comes from trying to control reality. Because there is a difference, a massive difference, and once you see it, you'll never look at your problems the same way again. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most people. He had power, wealth, and influence beyond imagination. Yet despite having everything people spend their entire lives chasing, he discovered a truth that changed the way he viewed life. A truth that can change yours too. And here's the strange part. The answer isn't doing more. It's not chasing harder. It's not forcing outcomes. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Because sometimes the moment you finally stop chasing is the moment everything begins moving toward you. Most people have attached their happiness to the future. They tell themselves, I'll be happy when I make more money. I'll be happy when I get that promotion. I'll be happy when I meet the right person. I'll be happy when life finally goes my way. But have you noticed what happens? The goal is achieved, yet the peace never arrives. The promotion comes, but anxiety stays. The money arrives, but the emptiness remains. One goal is replaced by another. One destination leads to another destination. It's like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. And this is where most people get trapped. They spend their entire lives chasing a version of happiness that always seems to exist, somewhere in the future. The Stoics saw through this illusion. They understood that if you cannot find peace in the present moment, you won't find it in the future either. Because the future is not a place where your problems magically disappear. It is simply another version of now. And if your mind is restless today, it will likely remain restless tomorrow. This doesn't mean you should stop having goals. It means you should stop making your peace dependent on them. There is a powerful difference between working towards something and needing it in order to feel complete. The first creates growth. The second creates suffering. And this leads us to something even deeper. Most people are not exhausted because they work too hard. They are exhausted because they resist reality. They argue with what already is. They replay old conversations in their heads. They wish the past had been different. They try to force people to behave a certain way. They demand certainty from an uncertain world. And every day they drain themselves fighting things they cannot change. Imagine standing in the middle of the ocean and trying to stop the waves with your hands. No matter how hard you push, the waves keep coming. Eventually, you become exhausted. Not because the ocean is against you, but because you chose a fight you could never win. Life works the same way. The more you resist reality, the more you suffer. The moment you accept reality, you regain your power. Acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance simply means seeing things clearly, because you cannot improve what you refuse to accept. You cannot move forward while constantly looking backward. And you cannot find peace while demanding that life follow your exact plan. This is why the Stoics focused on one simple principle. Focus on what you can control. Let go of what you cannot. It sounds simple, but it changes everything. You can control your actions. You can control your attitude. You can control your discipline. You can control how you respond to challenges. But you cannot control every outcome. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control timing. You cannot control the future. And the moment you stop carrying responsibilities that were never yours to carry, your mind becomes lighter. Now here's where things get interesting. The moment you let go of control, most people become afraid. They think letting go means losing. They think surrender means weakness. But what if the opposite is true? What if constantly trying to control everything is actually a sign of fear? Think about it. Why do we obsess over outcomes? Because we're afraid. Why do we overthink? Because we're afraid. Why do we desperately chase results? Because we're afraid of not getting them. Fear is often hiding beneath the need for control. The Stoics understood something powerful. True confidence is not believing everything will go your way. True confidence is knowing you'll be okay, even if it doesn't. Let that sink in. Most people spend years trying to create certainty, but certainty doesn't exist. Life will always contain risk. Life will always contain surprises. Life will always contain challenges. The strongest people are not those who eliminate uncertainty. They are those who learn how to remain calm in the presence of it. This is why anxiety has become such a common problem. Anxiety is what happens when your mind starts living in a future that doesn't exist yet. You imagine scenarios, you create problems, you replay fears, and before anything bad has even happened, you've already suffered. Seneca once said that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Thousands of years later, those words remain just as true. How many things have you worried about that never actually happened? How many sleepless nights were spent fighting battles that existed only in your mind? Right now, in this moment, take a second and ask yourself a simple question. Are you okay? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Right now. Chances are, you are. Yet your mind keeps trying to drag you into a future that hasn't arrived. And every time you follow it there, you lose the present moment. The only moment where life is actually happening. But there is another reason people struggle to relax. They don't trust the timing of their lives. They want immediate results, immediate success, immediate transformation. They plant a seed and expect a tree the next morning. When growth doesn't happen fast enough, they assume nothing is happening at all. But nature doesn't work that way. A tree grows slowly. A mountain forms slowly. Strength develops slowly. Wisdom develops slowly. Everything meaningful takes time. The problem is that most people quit during the invisible stage. They stop because they cannot see progress. They mistake silence for failure. They mistake slow growth for no growth. They walk away right before the breakthrough arrives. What they don't realize is that some of the most important growth happens beneath the surface. Just because you cannot see results doesn't mean results are not forming. Just because life appears quiet doesn't mean life isn't preparing something greater. Sometimes life delays things because you are not ready yet. Sometimes the opportunity isn't the problem. The preparation is. We spend so much time asking when things will happen that we forget to ask who we are becoming in the process. And that may be the most important question of all. Because success is not something you chase. Success is something you grow into. A calm person makes better decisions. A disciplined person creates better habits. A confident person attracts better opportunities. A strong person handles challenges more effectively. In other words, your future is often shaped by who you become, not by what you pursue. This is why the Stoics focused on character above everything else. They understood that external success can disappear overnight, but inner strength stays with you forever. So perhaps the question isn't, how do I get what I want? Perhaps the better question is, who do I need to become? Because when you become the right person, many of the things you've been chasing begin to arrive naturally, not because of luck, not because of magic, but because you've finally become capable of receiving them. And this is the secret most people never discover. The harder you grip life, the faster it slips through your fingers. The harder you force things, the more resistance you create. Peace begins where control ends. Freedom begins when your happiness no longer depends on outcomes. And the calmest person in the room is often the most powerful. So take a deep breath, relax your mind, release what you cannot control, Stop carrying burdens that were never yours to carry. Trust the process. Trust your growth. Trust the timing of your life. Focus on becoming stronger, wiser, calmer, and more disciplined every day, because what belongs to you does not require desperation, and sometimes the moment you finally stop chasing is the exact moment everything begins to come to you.